Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Solar Sales Uncensored. I am your host, Aaron Browning, and I am so excited to have my good friend, Mr. Chris Craddock, on the stage with us today. What we're going to talk about today is Sales Mastery Unleashed, the DISC advantage. And there truly is no one better, I know, at explaining the DISC, at utilizing the DISC, real life examples of what he's doing across multiple businesses than Chris. But I want to give him a quick intro for those that might not know him, which I'm hoping is not very many, as he is on stages, he's doing his thing. He is a real estate investor. That's, in fact, how we got hooked up years ago. He specializes in off-market deals, my friends. Like, we could do a whole podcast just on that, and I'm sure if the feedback's there, we will. He also owns over $10 million in rental properties as well, which is huge. Once again, another podcast just on that. He also owns a real estate team that does over $200 million in sales annually. That's a mic drop moment right there. But not only all the business accolades, he is an amazing husband. He is an exceptional dad to 6 kids. 6 kids. Chris Craddock, how are you, man?
I'm great, brother. Great to hang with you, man. Great to hang with you.
Likewise, man. This has been in the works for a little bit, man. Your schedule. By the way, how many businesses do you own now? And you might not even know.
I don't I lose track. I know I've got 13 streams of income, so I don't know how that all plays out and everything else. But yeah,
Love it, man. Family's doing well?
yeah, doing great, doing great. All the kids are doing well. Life is good, just busy, right? Spring sports and life, business, all the other stuff. It's crazy, but good.
I love it, man. I could only imagine with 6. I only have 2, so I can't imagine, I should say. How's the new house, man? I know you guys just recently moved.
Oh, it's great. I wake up and I'm like, man, I cannot believe I get to live here almost every day. I ride my horse every day, which I've not been a horse person. It was my wife's thing, but between watching Yellowstone and being around the horses, man, I am all in. So I get to ride my horse every day, hang with the kids, it's just unbelievable. It's so cool that I get to live here.
I love it, man. Actually, I want to paint the picture real quick for the audience that might not know. So Chris and I we live close to each other. We're in Northern Virginia. To have horses, and I'm not even co-signing that, to have horses in Northern Virginia in your backyard is like a big deal. This is not farm country, so it's huge, man. Congrats on that. The house is absolutely stunning. Let's jump in, man. I guess let's get a little bit of your background and then how you got introduced to DISC.
Yeah, I started off in ministry. Was on staff with Young Life, then was a pastor for forever and flipped houses to make ends meet. But during that time when I was in ministry, I always led large teams of people. And so I'd gone back and got a seminary degree, and then went back and got a doctorate in leadership. And I guess I saw Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and it just made a lot of sense about how you can build a team and kind of the Zig Ziglar idea that you can have anything you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And when that happened, I started studying sales a little bit better. And then you realize that all sales is just leadership. And there are sleazy salespeople that are just bad leaders, right? Because there's bad leaders. Look at our government. You'll see a few of them there, right?
We're getting uncensored quick.
But sales is just leadership, right? And it's amoral. It's a tool that used well can lead people well, and used poorly can manipulate people to do stupid things. You look at history. And when I started understanding DISC, I realized that it's a way to speak people's language. And now I'm going to just share just a really quick thing, if you'll indulge me, just at the very beginning, because I think it's just super powerful. As I'm taking horseback riding lessons, learning more about being a leader there, but you realize that with horses, there's all this therapeutic riding that gets done, people with autism and Asperger's and all the other stuff. The crazy thing about sales is, like, all of us have heard of mirroring and matching, right? Like, you want to be on the same vibe, wavelength as other people. With horses, the reason why it works with like people with autism and Asperger's is because horses will hear you coming. They will start matching their breath to your breath. They'll even match their heartbeat to your heartbeat, right? So it's like, all of a sudden, these kids that feel so separated and ostracized in the world because people don't get them are around this other creature that literally their heart is beating on the same wavelength as them, and they get them, and it brings the tension down because there's something in the world that feels them, gets them, is on that same vibe. And that's what DISC is, being able to understand what makes somebody tick and being able to speak to them and be on that same wavelength with them so that they can feel like you actually get them.
That is like the ultimate level of mirroring, by the way. When you're talking about heartbeat on the same frequency, oh my gosh. Wow, that's incredible, man. Really cool example as well. I have a sister with disabilities, so I knew about the horses. I didn't know why, the why behind it. That's powerful, man.
It's kind of like the avatar thing. You connect in, right? But it's like a really cool thing. And it gives that perfect word picture of this is how people, if you walk away from a sales meeting and somebody is like, man, we're very much alike. Even if you're like, if I meet with an accountant, we're probably not alike. No. But if we walk away and they say, oh, we're very much alike, it means that I was speaking their language. And that's what the goal is.
Yeah, it's high level sales. It really is. Before we dive deep on this, you mentioned how sales isn't bad, yet it can be used in a negative way. I have a suit guy, and I share this story all the time. It won't touch the autism story, but I have a suit guy. Every time I go to visit him, I could be going in for a single shirt for a convention or a belt, something simple. I walk out spending thousands of dollars. And I know it every time. And I love this guy. I refer him business. I'll walk in. He's like, Aaron, I know you came for that. Can I show you something brand new? Can I take you down to the secret room? Like he speaks to me. Secret room. I'm like, oh, here we go. But I never walk out angry. Like it was high level sales. He knows me. He knows what I want. And he does it in such a way that I just smile. And I love sharing that story.
He knows you want the secret room.
100%. Yeah. The secret room is what it's all about. Okay, so let's talk about the DISC. Do you want to give like an overview of what it stands for?
Yeah, absolutely. So D is like the driven, decisive, hard-charging person. And we'll go through how to understand who they are and how to speak to that language in a second. I is like interpersonal, and think extrovert, right? Just loves being around people, loves doing things with people. S is super systematic, very loyal type people, but systematic. They need to know what the next step is in the process. And C, and I'm just going to be honest, C is who I relate the least with and have the hardest time in sales with, because these are very cautious people. If you talk about building a house, they'll want to know what size nail each room was used with. Is the screw coated or is it not coated? They want to know every detail. And if you don't know the details, they feel like you are just losing them and missing steps. So C is very cautious and needs to know the details. And so that's, if you understand that people fit in those levels, and usually there's like the one that they are, and then another one that's a close second. And for me, I'm massively high D, massively high I, but it also depends on what day you'll catch me. So some days I'm a higher D than a higher I. And on those days, I am going to accomplish my goal. I don't care who I have to run over to get that goal. And on other days, I'm a higher I than I am a D. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my goals aside to save and preserve the relationship. And so if you understand that you're not always showing up as a D or an I, there's adaptive behaviors. There's ways that you show, like some days you'll just be more in line with another one, then you can understand yourself, but you can also understand other people, where you spoke to somebody that sounded like they're a huge D, but then you meet with them and you realize they want to do stuff together, and they're more of, that day they're showing up as an I, right? It's more about the togetherness than just getting to the goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that, man. There's a lot to dissect with that one. Obviously, a similar profile as well. I think that's part of the reason why we hit it off day one. We speak the same language on most days. I always use the example when you're studying the DISC and behavioral assessments and profiles. It's almost like a rubber band. I think I stole it from Gary Keller, to be honest. Where all of us, especially a high-level sales guy like Chris, he can stretch. He's going to fit. He's going to get uncomfortable and answer those high C questions. But if that was his role, his task every single day to talk to high Cs, he's no longer here. He's not doing it. Like we have that rubber band to where eventually it's going to crack. It's going to break. But yet, as you start to learn this, you're able to stretch a little bit more than perhaps if you didn't have the awareness. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Cool. So where are you with the DISC and how it influences sales overall?
If you understand DISC profile, folks, then you're really going to win. So I'll do a quick analysis of what and how to speak to them. And there's way more than we can get to in this episode. And I actually did on my podcast probably a year or two ago, I did 4 separate episodes on it and I broke it down, which you can go back to and check out. Uncommon Real Estate. You can check that out, where we spend a lot of time on each one. But if you get the basics of it, then it really works well. And here's the deal. I say this to my team. I say, my real estate team, I'm like, you need to be able to tell who they are on the disc profile from your first call with them and in the first 30 seconds. And if you can't tell that right away, you need to spend more time analyzing people till you can get that down, right? So let me give an example. So my sister, we had a friend of ours who was a top producing real estate agent who went to our church. He was a massively high C. This was before I was in real estate. I did some flipping, whatever. He was a massively high, no, not C, S, right? Where he had a system for everything. My sister is the highest D you can imagine. And her I is much lower than mine. So it's high D. So she saw a house she wanted to buy. She called this agent that was a friend of ours and said, hey, I'd love to check this house out. And he said, okay, cool. Before you do this, why don't you fill out this assessment so that we can make sure that you get the right property that fits you and your family well. She's okay, looked at it. It was a 5-page assessment that would take about 45 minutes to fill out. And immediately she calls my uncle, who's a commercial lender, and says, hey, Larry, do you know any other real estate agents that can show me this house today? And literally was out that afternoon looking at that house because she did not want to go through the process. He spoke his language, right? They say that the golden rule is to do unto others as you do unto yourself. And they say the platinum rule, which I know is a little cheesy or whatever, is do unto others as they would want done unto them.
I just learned about that last week, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, I actually like it.
That's it. And my sister wanted somebody that was going to speak her language. And now, granted, is it in her best interest to not do the assessment? Because the ready, fire, aim stuff doesn't always work best. But if you don't speak her language and say, hey, fill this 45-minute process out before you go look at stuff, you're going to lose every D. But if you go out and just say to a high S, hey, we're just going to go look at properties. Don't worry, we'll figure it out on the fly. A high S wants to know the next step. So a high D, you've got to be able to speak their language, move fast, talk quickly, talk about results, right? The whole time. If you see that, you've got to move fast, talk quickly, talk results. Now a high I, let's move to the I. The high I wants to know that everything will be done together. So the language you're going to use is we, us, together. It's going to be fun. This is going to be great. If you are using that language with a high I, they feel loved, cared for. Somebody's giving them like a warm hug on a winter day, right? That is how they feel. But the worst thing you can do to a high I is just say, oh, we're going to get this done. Here, just fill this out. Do this by yourself. Like anything by yourself, anytime they feel by themselves, they do not feel like they are cared for. They would rather make a bad decision with somebody than make a great decision by themselves.
So true, so true.
So then the S, we'll jump to the S real quick. The S is super loyal, but the S needs to know that you have a plan, right? And so the language you've got to use with the S is the next steps are. Here's the next steps so that there's a plan. Like the S isn't like a C, and a lot of times people will confuse the C and the S. The C needs to know every bit of minutia. If you're not in the weeds, like pulling stuff out, then you are just leaving them behind. So the S, you just need to say, okay, so what we're going to do today, we'll go look at this property. If we're talking a house, we'll look at this property. And then what we're going to do next is decide, is this the right property for you? I'm going to need you in the meantime to talk to this lender. If it's solar, you're saying, okay, with the S, all right, so here's the deal. We're going to do an evaluation. Is this right for you? Okay, it looks right. Okay, so then the next step is I don't know the total sales process in solar, but the next step is this and then this, so that they feel like they're in a system. That's the whole thing. They need to feel like they're in the system and you're not flying by the seat of your pants. As long as they trust the person, then that's good. And then the last one is the C, right?
By the way, audience, did you hear his voice as it changed? Just when he's getting to the C. I love it. You couldn't even help yourself. And the last one is the C.
It's hard for me because I have had so many C's. And for me personally, what it feels like is a lack of trust when that's not, it's that I'm not speaking their language. A high C is going to need to know, if we're talking real estate, they're going to need to know the school district. They're going to need to know the year built. They're going to need to know, have all the permits been done. They're going to need to know just all of the different pieces. If you're looking at solar, they're gonna ask, how are you securing this thing to the roof? You know, what's gonna happen if the government regulations change? What's gonna happen if, and you're gonna need to walk through all of the hypotheticals. And so this is one of the keys that I learned about high C's, which was really interesting to me, because I felt like as a salesperson, if I didn't get the close on day one while we're sitting there, I was never going to get the close. Because anytime somebody said I need to think about it, I knew that usually that meant that they just want an out, and it was a smoke screen to say, leave me alone, in a nice way. But then what I learned was, for a D, an I, and an S, I need to think about it is leave me alone. For a C is I need to think about it means I'm super nervous and I really need to think about it. And so if you can identify the C and you push them to sign right then and there, you're probably going to lose them. But the D, I, and S, you really would want them to sign right then and there. Otherwise, they're going to shop you. You're going to lose motivation. You're going to lose urgency, all the other stuff. But that's one of the big keys I learned about the C is they really do need to think on it.
Yeah, really good stuff. I'm going to go back to your high D one because I love that. And especially for the audience who's listening that's new to this, right? New to behavioral profiles. It wasn't so much that the agent was wrong, and he touched on that, asking your sister, I think it was, to fill out that form. He had a thought process behind it. The problem was he didn't have the influence. He didn't have the expertise yet, the relationship with her to get her to go want to invest 45 minutes. She's driven. She saw a home. Like, I want to buy it yesterday. And he wasn't able to adapt to that. So it really, his timing was off, which I think is huge. Chris, and I'll kind of put you on the spot. I'm pretty sure you know this, though. What percentage would you say of the U.S. population is D, I, S, or C? Do you have a breakdown or a ballpark on that?
I don't really have a good percentage of that. I know that D's are a slightly smaller percentage, but I don't really have a good breakdown. I wish I could answer that.
Yeah, I've heard, and everyone's a stat expert. They'll use stats. I think part of sales is you'll use stats in your favor. I've heard the D's in that like 15 to 18 range. Most are going to be C's or S's. High I's are somewhere in a quarter. But once again, I'll throw that out when we do the description. Another thing you said I think is really important in terms of leading your team is you're giving them first call. You're giving them a minute. Like, they need to identify. Do you have any tricks or tactics that you're teaching that your team is utilizing for that quick, that blink reaction?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the jokes I always make about high D's is, and I say this about one of my sons, often wrong, never in doubt.
So true.
Oh, man.
I'm stealing that.
Yeah. My son, oh my gosh, often wrong, never in doubt. I've got actually two of my sons that, it's so funny to watch them lock horns because they're both completely positive about something they have no clue about. Yep. But with that said, so as soon as we're talking on a call, if I hear somebody talking fast and saying, hey, this is what I need to do, this is what I'm looking for, talking about the end result really quickly, then I know it's a D, like almost right away. And if they tend to be a fast talker, if they tend to be a little bit more rude, all of that, the more rude tends to be a high D, and sometimes it can also mask as a D when it's actually a C, because sometimes C's aren't intending to be rude, they just come across as rude because usually C's do have a very low I, so they don't have that interpersonal skill to read the room well. But if they're fast-paced, talking about the end, all that, that's a D. If you hear them talking, my friend said this, talking about other people in their world, or you hear we or together or I want to have any of that stuff where you hear them bringing in any other people, I heard a friend say this, then they're probably high I, because most are going to weigh their friends' opinions and thoughts much higher than anybody else in the profile. And so that's where it's super, super important. You can also ask them a little bit about themselves. And if when they describe themselves, they talk about parties, they talk about things that extroverts talk about, they're probably going to be a high I.
I find their answers longer typically as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We'll talk a lot.
Dead giveaway.
Yes. Yeah. Big talkers for sure.
So keep flowing. C and S. How was your team identifying that quickly?
Yeah. High C's, high S's, if you're talking to an S, and And one, you'll see this a lot with government analysts, and we're in the DC area. So if somebody says they're an analyst or a contractor, oftentimes you'll see an S, and oftentimes you can see by their job.
I was going to share that tip. That tip has made me so much money just by asking a lead, like, what do you do for work? 9 times out of 10, I don't know the exact percentage. See, I just made one up. I said 90%. They'll tell you, I can usually guess it. And you got to dig in, but it's going to guide me. It's going to guide me down that path if I didn't already pick up on it. That's a great tip, brother.
Did you know, so you're talking about stats. Did you know 83.2% of all things said in confidence are believed by the listener? Did you know
Say that again?
83.2% of all things said in extreme confidence are believed by the listener.
Just because of the confidence piece.
I just made that up, but you believe me.
Yes. 100%. Here's the other reason for those watching this on the video pod. He leaned into it. There's a lot of stuff. You can tell he's high level. He leaned in. He was grabbing my soul. I knew there was going to be some trick, and I fell right into it.
Yeah, well, you didn't answer right away because most people say, yeah. And I was like, oh, he knows what I'm going to say.
I knew he was setting me up somehow. I just didn't see it.
But yeah, no, that's a huge thing. And so I've seen, like, with real estate, it's so interesting. I'll meet with some friends that are an analyst for the government, and they'll give me like a 3-page report of the things that they're looking for on our first meeting when I haven't even asked them questions. But that's the whole thing. When you can ask about their job, but with high S's, oftentimes you will see that they tend to be a little bit more steady people, right? Like their emotions tend to not sway as much. They tend to be steady. And that's another big difference between the S and the C, because the C will get super emotional because one of the C's biggest fears is being incorrect, where it creates this massive emotion. And sometimes you'll see anger when it's just anxiety and fear that creates what you think is anger. Where an S is flat, right? Like they're not gonna have high highs and low lows. They're gonna be super flat. But they tend to be fairly loyal people. So if you ask them, if you hear that they have a best friend, right? A high I, like I've got 90 best friends, right? Like that's true. Like we have a lot of best friends. A high S has 3 to 5 super close friends that they've been friends with for 20 years and they know everything about everything. And that's the deal with it. I truly have a lot of friends that I care about deeply, that I would do a lot for. A high S, their friendships, they're fewer, but they're super deep friendships. And so when you ask questions and you get things to come out like that, then you're like, okay, so this is an S. I need to talk about next steps. I need to know that they're going to trust me implicitly as long as I give them the right to trust me. And then a high C, when they start asking super detailed questions, you know that it's a high C, right? That's the whole thing. A high D will ask high level questions. A high C is going to ask like in the weeds questions that are just super, super important to them, where you're like, it's not a big deal. We'll figure that out. I don't know if did you ever watch the SNL, like Dana Carvey SNL years ago?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but there was this one where he was one of the news anchors and they were recording him with every single possible scenario when Gerald Ford died. Gerald Ford got mauled by lions yesterday. He goes through every single scenario. That's what a high C is looking for, is that you have a plan on every single possible scenario that could happen.
I love it, man. I love it. Something else you just touched on, I think it was with the S, was fears. Do you happen to know the other fears for the other one? 'Cause I'm a big believer of that. If you can identify what their fear, their pain point, and this is more on the leadership side for any team builders, whether solar, real estate, whatever business you're in, how to lead them by knowing some of their fears. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, so a high D, fear of missing out, FOMO, is the biggest thing ever. That's why they want to move fast. They want to get it done. That's why my sister wanted to be in that house that afternoon because she didn't want somebody else to get it, right? A high I, the fear of being alone, doing it by themselves, like not being with somebody, which is why the language we need to use with a high D is decisive, quick, done. High I is together, fun, we.
Can I add 2 things to that real quick? The high I, another one that served me well on the real estate side, leading a team, it's fear of rejection.
Yes.
Because high I's crush it in real estate, crush it in solar, crush it in sales. They're so personable. They instantly become friends with the client. They get referrals like no other. But the minute they have to have that fierce conversation and it could risk the relationship, that rejection, oh my gosh, is that a hot button?
Yeah. So there's a high I on my real estate team. Super likable guy. Anybody that knows him loves him. And he's had some ups and downs. He's about a year into real estate and he's done really well, but he's also had some big droughts. And so I was listening to some of his calls. We were listening to calls and evaluating them together. And it was super interesting because like there was one where he said at the very beginning, the guy said, hey, I don't have time right now. And the response is, okay, I'll give you a call back later. Just real quick, let me ask one quick question. And then you just dive into your question. And so he did that, did it perfectly, flawlessly, which at the beginning of his career, if somebody said, I don't have time now, he didn't want any confrontation at all. So he'd just say, okay. So he did that flawlessly. They dove in and the guy was giving him all the information he needed. And then almost immediately, as the guy was giving information, my guy just said to him, hey, I know you need to go, so I'll give you a call back around 5. And you're listening to this together, and he was like, oh my gosh, he didn't even say he had to go again, and I let him off. I reminded him he needed to go. And then sure enough, the guy didn't pick up when he called him because he was afraid of that like confrontation of that. So that's super powerful.
Yeah, the other one I'll add for the D that you touched on is, and this is a big one. You're going to say it in a much better way, which is great. That's part of the reason I want to bring it up. In terms of selling to a D, the minute a high D feels like they know more about the subject than you've lost. Like, I am a big believer. If I hire Chris to find me investment properties, if I feel like I know more about hunting down properties, how to negotiate, I will not work with Chris. I'm hiring Chris to run the deal. I'm hiring him to be that person. I want to outsource it. I want to trust that person. And that is really important for those of you that are not a high D. You're a C or S. You're not using strong words. You're not matter of fact. This is what we're going to do. This is our plan, right? You got to be concrete. Anything you want to touch on?
No, I mean, the crazy thing is you're using the investment scenario. So I've got about 8 real estate agents that hire me and they're like, look, I've got my license, but you keep the commission if you can find me an off-market property that cash flows and has equity. And that's the deal. But with it, it's so funny because they are experts in their field. They will give me so much pushback. And if I can't answer the question and say, look, I know that you think this, but this is why this is better, then the deal is off like immediately. So like what you're saying, because almost all but one are high Ds that I've helped buy investment properties over this last year. And every single one of them, I will bring them a deal and they will always give pushback because a high D is going to give pushback on the question. They tend to say what they think without high I is going to temper what they say. High D is going to be a little more blunt. Hey, but what about this? All the other stuff. And then if you can't give a good answer, then you're toast and that deal is dead, right?
Yeah, you almost can't save it, honestly. Like it is, I don't know if you can save it. Yeah, it's really tough.
Because IDs know what they know, and even if they're wrong, they know what they know.
It's your son. It's what you led with, which is huge. Talk to me about any misconceptions with the disc. Anything, and I'm sure you haven't been asked that, but anything jump out at you?
I have a good friend of mine who hates all the personality profiles. He's like, I'm not boxed in. I'm a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you can't box somebody in. And the funny thing is he is a super high S, but his disc profile doesn't show that. And I've watched him answer the questions on the disc profile. And part of the reason why is because he will answer questions that are not true of him, that he wants to believe are true of him. But he's a super high S, right? But he doesn't want to be boxed in. The reality is, if you understand that it is a tool that helps you instead of a tool that boxes you in and pigeonholes you into something, then it's really helpful. But there are the people that, and usually the people that are super opposed to any of these personality profiles are ones that are a certain profile that they wish they weren't. Because he actually would prefer to be a high D, but he is the greatest. He is like literally world-class S, but he wishes he were a D.
That's huge, man. I'll be stealing that as well. They're almost forecasting what they wish they were. I love that. Here's one for me, and it's really more of a pet peeve, and I hear this with newer people leaning in on disc or behavioral profiles, would be the cop-out, man, where there's no ownership of their personality. I'll use a high D, where they can come off as a jerk, like really hurt someone's feelings. And I've heard people say, especially in the real estate community, just because that's where I learned this, I'm a high D. It is what it is. No, that's a cop-out. Part of this is learning how to communicate better, how to influence others, and not just draw your line in the sand, as they say, and that's the way it's going to be. You feel the same way?
Absolutely. Actually, so for my team, I've got my notebook right here. I was teaching on leadership this morning, And the whole idea is your life grows to the extent you grow. And the second, one of my main points here is stop being a victim. And so many people blame the people they talk to, they blame the interest rates, they blame all the other things on why they're not making sales or why they're not successful or anything else, and stop being a victim. Because the second you're a victim, it's no longer your fault. And the second it's no longer your fault, you can't grow. And as soon as you realize that there's somebody else that's dumber than you, somebody else that maybe is a different sex than you, a different race than you, a different whatever than you, like any other reason that you're not able to be successful, that is way more successful than you, the second you realize that there are other people that are more successful, that are in your exact same situation, then you can say, okay, how can I level up? And maybe it's harder, right? Nobody's saying that it might not be harder for you than for somebody else, but there is somebody in your situation who is less talented than you, that is more successful than you, because they've just decided, I am never going to let my situation stop me. I'm going to level up and I'm going to be the best that I can be. So you can't say, hey, I'm a high D, so it gives me the right to be a pompous punk. You just can't be that. No, I got to learn how to talk to people in a way they want to be talked to.
Mic drop, man. And by the way, I called it. I said he's going to say it 10 times better than what I did, and he delivered. That is a mic drop. I will make that into a reel, into a short, into a TikTok, man. You absolutely nailed it. What's one key takeaway or action item for someone, like I said, who's just starting out on this? They're probably drinking from a fire hose, if we're being honest, if this is the first time they're hearing it. What's something they can do right away to implement, get better?
I will say, if you want to go through the longer process of that, you can download I don't even remember how long ago it was, but I think it's almost 4 hours of disc training. So now actually it was half an hour each. So that's one of the easiest ways to do it. But the second thing I would say is, and this is the easiest way, if you want to get better, it's reps, right? Take your reps. I was a soccer player who couldn't kick with my left foot. And literally I decided when I was in 8th grade, I was just going to go out back every night, and I had a small goal in my backyard, and I was going to hit the ball 50 times with my left foot every single night. And then all of a sudden one day I just hit a ball, like it just flew and it went where I wanted to go, but it just happened because of the reps I was taking. And so that was the whole idea behind it, is every time you talk to somebody, if you can just take a minute and just say, okay, this person is a high D because X. If this person is a high I because of X. And just start writing down who they are and where they sit. That would be really helpful. And then if you want to go the next, and I know you said one thing, so that's
flow, man, flow. Keep going.
Then the last thing that I would say is then start, after you can identify people, like where they flow into, where they are, start speaking that language. High D, like very quickly, this is the goal. High I, we, together, us. High S, next step, high C, detail, and start speaking that language. And you're going to walk away from all of those conversations where you just say, holy mackerel, my sales skills have just tripled. My income has tripled. And that's Zig Ziglar, anybody in sales, and I know this is who this podcast is geared towards, he says this, he's like, you have a raise and it becomes effective as soon as you do. And so that's that whole idea right now, is that as you level up and learn how to speak to people well, you're going to become more effective and you're going to make more money.
Love it. I'm going to add mine because you got me flowing now. It's extreme ownership. It's accountability. It was Chris's example a few minutes ago. Something that served me very well. Anytime I didn't get the sale, anytime I didn't get the recruit, whatever I was trying to accomplish, stop being a victim. I hung up the phone, I left the meeting, and I said, where did I drop the ball? What did I miss? Where did I not communicate like them? And that served me very well. And that's hard. It was really hard for me because you're admitting it was you and not them. Oh, it was Chris. Chris wasn't a serious buyer. No, what did I miss? Like, where could I have gained that trust? The other big one I love with mirrors, I think it's an easy one to see. My wife and kids, they'll hear me on the phone. I can walk out of my office and they'll be like, were you talking to someone older? Like, they'll start to identify because it slows down. I speed up. I start sharing more family stories. Like, you'll start to have others around you picking up on what you're doing, which I love. I think it's really cool. Chris, how do people... Sorry, go ahead.
Catherine says that she can tell anytime I'm talking to somebody from the South or country because my G's disappear. I don't even do it anymore.
I love it. That's part of it. Though.
I'm missing my G's.
Yeah, I love it. Chris, how do people find you, man? I mentioned your podcast again. Anything else you want to...
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, Chris Craddock Official, Instagram, old cheesy high school nickname, Crad Rock, and then Facebook. So those are the easiest ways. And people were so generous with their time with me that If anybody DMs me on Instagram, I may not get back to them right away, but I'll personally answer. I won't have a staff person or anybody else answering. I'll personally answer any message on
That's
Instagram.
awesome, dude. Awesome. And the podcast name again?
Uncommon Real Estate.
Cool. Awesome. I want to make sure. Solid dude, man. Chris, I appreciate it as always. You dropped some bombs. You dropped some nuggets. I know our audience is going to be blowing up the feedback. For those of you in the audience, if you got value, and I know and pray you did, please review and share this podcast. Chris came on for free. He was here just to share his wisdom, share some nuances that he does to 10X all the businesses he owns. So, Chris, I appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.